Thank you all for joining us this evening for what is a very early briefing on the new proposed VHC Health Rehabilitation and Behavioral Wellness Facility at Carlin Springs Road. I'm Christian Dorsey, Chair of the County Board for this year. And you all have been asked to join this conversation because you know that there is a growing demand at the national, at the state, and of course, we feel it most acutely at the local level when it comes to behavioral health care services. And it's a priority for us, Arlington County government, Arlington Public Schools, and certainly VHC Health as well. And we are always looking for opportunities to expand capacity and offer the necessary critical interventions and long-term services for individuals and families who are experiencing behavioral health challenges. So thank you all for being a part of this conversation tonight. It's kind of unusual. We don't really have an analog for this kind of meeting that you've participated in before, but we do think that this is a great opportunity to get our entire community behind what we can do together to further address the shortage of local mental health beds and treatment options for both adults and adolescents. You all know VHC Health well as a pillar of our community, providing high quality care to all residents. And they are a strong healthcare resource for Arlington County, as well as surrounding jurisdictions as well. And we believe that VHC Health is the logical partner to provide the essential services in behavioral and mental health at the Carlin Springs site. Now, this evening, we are going to have a program where we're going to walk through this project from sort of concept to state of play, and also provide an opportunity for you to, of course, ask any questions. But joining us on the sort of roster of speakers tonight is Adrian Stanton, who's the Vice President of Real Estate Acquisition and Development at VHC Health. Also joining us from VHC is Melody Dickerson, who is the Senior Vice President of Hospital Operations and the Chief Nursing Officer. On the county side, we have our Deputy County Manager, Michelle Cowan, Jill Hunger, our Assistant Director at Community Planning, Housing, and Development. From the Department of Human Services, we have Anita Friedman and Deborah Warren, the Director and Deputy Director, respectively, and our Assistant County Manager, Bryna Helfer. So, as we bring together all of you, representatives from our many commissions who might have an interest or at some point in the process of seeing this from concept to actual entitled project, who will have a hand in reviewing this, we wanted to bring you together for this early opportunity to discuss this proposed facility. So we will take some time to actually go through what are some of the challenges that we face in meeting the needs in the community. We'll, of course, learn a little bit more from VHC about what they propose for the facility itself, not only in terms of what it will look like, but what it will offer from a programmatic standpoint. We'll go through the public review process, including the timeline, so you have an opportunity to incorporate that within your commission planning for the year. And we then want you to, of course, take what you've learned back to your fellow commissioners so that we can have what we hope will be an enthusiastic but also very efficient and smooth process getting to the end game. So why don't we actually start? We appreciate you all populating your attendance in the chat, but why don't we just have a verbal and out loud review of all who were attending this meeting. So I will call the names of commissions who were invited, and if you wouldn't mind just going off mute for a second and introducing yourself to the group. Do we have anyone from the CSB?
Hi, good evening, Chris. I'm Wendy Crawford. I'm the current chair of the Community Services Board.
Good to see you, Wendy.
Good to see
How about our Commission on Aging?
Hi, Chris. It's Linda Kelleher. I'm chair of the Commission on Aging.
All right, Linda. Arlington Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And if you wouldn't mind, after you've introduced yourself, go back to mute so that we can keep the audio clear. All right, didn't hear anyone from the partnership. How about the Disability Advisory Commission?
Yes, hello, this is Leo.
Hello, my name is Bryant and I'm with the Disability Advisory Commission.
Welcome, Bryant. All right, how about the Planning Commission?
Daniel Weir. I am the immediate past chair of the Planning Commission, and I'm excited to see this meeting. Thanks.
Immediate past chair, chair emeritus, whatever you want to call yourself, Daniel, works for us here. Welcome, welcome. And I think we also have Leo Sarli from the Planning Commission. Well, I think we have him. Maybe he's not in a position to speak at this point in time. So why don't we move next to JFAC, the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission.
Hi, Chairman Dorsey. Thank you. I'm Steve Young with JFAC.
Steve, good to see you. All right, and how about the Transportation Commission?
I'm not sure anyone was able to join us tonight.
No worries. Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Hi, Kate Donahue, Forestry and Natural Resources.
All right, hi, Kate.
Hi.
How about the Park and Recreation Commission? All right, C2E2, Climate Change, Energy and Environment.
Hi, this is Cindy Lewin here on behalf of C2E2.
Hey, Cindy. We have a representative from our Military and Veterans Affairs Committee.
Hey, this is Mark Poncelli. I'm the vice chair of the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee, also known as the MVAC.
All right, Mark, nice to meet you. I think it's my first opportunity to do so. Good to see you.
Great meeting you too, sir.
How about the Commission on the Status of Women? And our Community Oversight Board.
Good evening. Excited to hear the presentation. I'm Julie Evans, the chair of the Community Oversight Board.
Hi, Julie. All right, are there any other attendees who were not reflected in my roll call of potential attendees? All right, terrific. So to guide us in this presentation, we do have a few slides, so we'll go ahead and present those up, and I'll go through a few before turning it over to our friends at VHC to walk you through their concept for the facility itself. So you all know what we're here to talk about, and if we can move to the next slide, as we begin this process and this engagement, you should know that in January, a letter of intent was signed by the county manager along with the CEO at VHC Health, which is really the first step in a process to outline how we want to engage towards getting this facility entitled and created. So what we have is a opportunity to look at the site where the Virginia Hospital Center Urgent Care Center used to be before it was part of a land swap with Arlington County to enable an expansion of their main campus. Arlington County took title to the property and has since not been able to conclusively come to a plan with what we wanted to do with it. And in the interim, VHC Health has come with plans to meet what is an emerging and growing need for behavioral health treatment and beds in our community. And so this letter of intent outlines exactly what we will look to in terms of considering a formal purchase and sale agreement that ultimately will be considered by the county board. If we can move to the next slide. The details are this site will be subdivided essentially where roughly half of it will be purchased by VHC, 5.8 acres, and that is where they will situate their facility. You can see on the slide there is map area in yellow and a map area in green. Those will be portions that will be reserved for public use. I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. But the area roughly corresponding to the green is part of a scenic overlook that is part of a resource protection area, which is very much treasured and valued in the community. It will remain so. And the area that's noted in yellow, the 4.5 acres, will at some point go through a planning process to determine what are the appropriate public uses for it. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about the area in purple, and that is the behavioral health facility that VHC is planning. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. So this gives you a better contextual overview of the entire site as it sits within the Glen Carlin community. You could see its adjacencies with a nature area and the Long Branch Nature Center. It's got some wonderful resources on site already. The Moses Ball Spring House. Those are assets that we will look to be maintained. They will be a part of what remains the public space, and the scenic easement overlooking the RPA is something that will also remain. The area that currently has a soon to be demolished, or maybe it's been demolished already, building that used to be the urgent care will be the essential footprint for what we're looking at in terms of this new facility. If we can go ahead and move to the next slide. I think that's it for me, right? So yes. So these efforts are the result of many years of discussions that have been going on in many different circles regarding the challenges that so many individuals and families are facing as it relates to experiencing various mental health challenges, including depression, substance abuse, and other needs that really require specialized treatment and care. And the current healthcare environment is really causing challenges for organizations that deliver healthcare and those that they serve, which is really requiring our best efforts to re-examine how to best work together to meet patients' needs and provide the necessary care. It is really exciting and important that we can have a partner who brings with it the experience, expertise, and resources to help meet these challenges that can work with Arlington County to better serve our community. So I now would like to invite Wendy Crawford, who is the chair of our Community Services Board, to talk really about the CSB's longstanding and sustained interest in expanding opportunities for behavioral health services in Arlington. Wendy, take it away.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate this opportunity to speak on behalf of that work from the Community Services Board. But I would be remiss if I didn't start with saying how much I appreciate the county board support and the collaboration between VHC and the CSB leading up to this moment in time, because it's truly been phenomenal. At this time, as we all know, the levels of mental health needs and substance use needs in our community and elsewhere, as was stated earlier, have just been in a state of remarkable increase, not just since 2019, but since 2011, leading up to the pandemic. We've seen a tremendous impact or increase rather in the needs, and a concurrent difficulty with finding professionals to provide services. So we really need to look towards models such as the public-private relationship in order to maximize our ability to meet the needs of our community in the most efficient and effective manner. Just for those who may not be tracking statistics the way some of us are, I just want to share some of those specific things that we have been dealing with, not in the community, in private facilities, in the schools, that calls, for example, to our emergency mental health services have doubled since 2019. And at every level of service, whether it's someone who maybe just needs some outpatient services, all the way through folks who need inpatient longer term services, what we're seeing is a more acute onset of need. So that many folks who are okay or could be supported with one level of service are now further along in terms of intensity. And we're seeing that as maintaining a high level. Suicide attempts have tripled. Substance use in our youth and adults has remarkably increased, like a 300% increase in overdoses over the past few years. These are large and significant and very concerning statistics. And again, in conjunction with the difficulties that the agencies and private organizations have had just staffing those, we really need to look towards that public-private partnership in order to meet the needs of our community. And I will lastly say in closing, the idea of having a facility in our community so that our families are not, first of all, not sitting in emergency rooms waiting for long periods of time to get service and then being transported somewhere where it's difficult for their family and loved ones to join them and support them in, coping and recovery and returning, to their less restrictive life and well-being. So anyway, thanks so much. I'm so excited. We've had a wonderful relationship with VHC for the past several years working on the new mental health unit, and we're excited to continue and engage with them around our needs and to collaborate with them on going forward. So thank you very much.
Wendy, thank you so very much. We are now going to move to our guests from VHC. And so I now like to turn it over to Adrian Stanton and Wendy Crawford, who will talk, and Melody Dickerson, who will talk a little bit about some of the fundamentals of the site in terms of its acquisition and how it fits within the portfolio, and then also to get specifically into the services that are going to be offered at the proposed new facility. So Adrian and Melody, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Kristen. I'll start it off and then let Melody do more of the heavy lifting and provide the expertise on our proposed project. But I'll start first by thanking you, Kristen, and the other members of the county board for your support of this project, and also the incredible help we've gotten from county staff and their expertise as we continue to work through the nuances of this. I appreciate the fact I get to follow Wendy because the CSB and other members of the Arlington Mental Health Alliance have been instrumental in helping us to come up with what we thought was going to be our plan to expand mental health services on the campus of the hospital. We too are extremely excited about this opportunity because in our process of working with CSB and other members of the county on the mental health expansion, we kept coming up with, oh, I wish we could do this, I wish we could do that. And we were just limited to what could be done on the campus of the hospital. Even with the expansion of our outpatient pavilion, we continue to be constricted with space and numbers of beds for the populations that keep growing around the hospital. And this affords us that opportunity to do the things that we really think are best, most importantly for the patients, but also for their family and the county as a whole. So I'll start. Next slide, please.
I apologize. I'm having a technical issue. Let me try again.
There you go.
Wrong one. There you go.
So what we're planning to do is increase the number of beds and develop some programs that don't exist today. What the hospital currently has is 18 what we call behavioral health beds. We also have 17 recovery and wellness, which is our substance abuse beds. We have one outpatient program, which is an intensive outpatient program for substance abuse. We intend to add to our complement and create unique units, and I'll let Melody go into the detail of that, and do so in an environment that allows for incorporating the surrounding areas. The Carlin Spring site affords a very natural environment that we think will be conducive to treatment of our patients. It allows us to incorporate the ability not only for natural light, but to incorporate the outdoor environment in developing treatment for our patients. The facility will also house 40 beds for inpatient rehab. We currently have 20 beds on the hospital campus. Those beds are full almost all the time. We don't have enough beds for the needs for inpatient rehab, and this will allow us to double the size of that current unit. We also think it is a good complement to the behavioral health services we'll be offering there. They'll be separated, but the two coexist very nicely. If nothing else, as we know, is the issue with Carlin Springs Road. It's a heavily traveled road. Neither of these programs generate a lot of traffic. They're actually less than you would get with your normal inpatient. Before we leave this slide, I'm going to ask Melody to kind of go through the details of the units and the beds that we'll have there.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Adrian, and I'll echo my thanks to the county board and for really everyone here tonight just to listen to our plans and hopefully support this project, which is just truly near and dear to my heart. You know, as we've looked at these services in the 5.5 years that I've been at VHC, you know, we really have always wanted to do more, but you know, we're really constrained by space. And so the beautiful thing about this plan is that it gives us the space. So today, VHC is really, I mean, we're an acute care hospital when it comes to mental health and addiction treatment. And what this project will allow us to do is to really create that entire continuum of care for those in our community that are most vulnerable. And so in addition to the inpatient areas that will expand, as Adrian spoke of, if you'll go to the next slide, Brianna. We're also adding new services. So today we have no option for the adolescent. In the future's case, we'll have an intensive outpatient therapy for the adolescent. You'll have traditional therapy for the adolescent. And for the adolescent that needs that more acute care, we'll have that 24-bed acute care unit. So those patients today come to our emergency department, oftentimes spending days, if not weeks, in our emergency department, waiting for an available bed in the state. So now that resource will be in our community and we'll be able to meet that need. For the adult population, in addition to the intensive outpatient treatment that we can give for addiction treatment, we are now going to be able to add intensive outpatient treatment for psychotherapy, as well as traditional therapy programs. And then beyond the intensive outpatient, we'll have a partial hospitalization program where you could actually go, you spend the entire work day in intensive therapy and then go home at night. For the adolescent, we'll have also that intensive outpatient program. And obviously in the events of the last few weeks, we are definitely looking to add an addiction component for that adolescent population as well. Now, on the main campus, Adrian may have said it, maybe I missed it, we are going to keep a smaller 14-bed unit, and that's going to be for that geriatric psych population. So these are fragile individuals. You know, sometimes the younger mental health population is a bit more aggressive and active. The more elderly, frail population have medical issues that complicate the other psychiatric issues that they have. So we'll have a 14-bed unit that will remain on the main campus specifically for that use. And then all of the patients will go to the new hospital. We'll also have an intake and assessment area. So, you know, say that an individual goes to their primary care and their primary care physician recognizes that there's an issue beyond their capability. Well, they can instruct and send, you know, have their patient go to this intake and assessment area where they'll do as it sounds. They'll come in, they'll assess the situation, they'll determine what level of care that the individual needs at that time and meet that need. So think of it as a triage area. So all these things combined with the ability to have separate outdoor spaces for the adult population and the pediatric population in a beautiful natural environment, I think is something that truly lives up to the therapeutic environment that VHC is working to bridge. We are working internally to continue to improve our programs. I know oftentimes we get asked about, staffing, and we'll be able to staff up to meet the need for these new beds. And the answer is yes. And we've done everything from hiring our own psychiatrists within our physician group. We've signed on a new psychiatrist who's going through the credentialing process right now that has that adolescent component. So again, when you look at that entire continuum of care here, we are going to be ready to meet that need. So I'll pause for a moment and see if there's any questions for me or Adrian.
And if there are any questions at this point, feel free to use the raised hand function. Otherwise, there will be an opportunity for questions as we conclude all of the speakers. So don't think you're off the hook yet, Melody.
All right.
Fair enough. All right, so next we're going to walk through a little bit of some of the stuff that you all are very familiar with, process and timeline. So Jill Hunger from CPHD will walk us through that with maybe some support from our planning commissioners who are here. Jill?
Yes, thank you so much. Wait for Bryna to. So again, thank you all for joining me today. Many of you have been through this process, but for those that haven't, just wanted to walk you through and understanding what the site plan review process is. And really our site plan projects are significant private and public-private projects limited to specific parcels of land in the county. And it's one way that we are able to process development with a county review. So it comes in with a site plan application, and I think Adrian will be able to speak to this if you have questions about the timing. But when that application is pulled together and brought together, county staff actually start doing an interdepartmental review of everything. And we're going to be establishing a web page, post-application, and background materials. A little bit of that has happened already. There is a page that's been stood up that has a little bit of information. And then at this time, when we're working through both the site plan, the conceptual plan, and you've seen a little bit of the conceptual plan, this preliminary site plan application, and then when we get this active site plan application, staff is coordinating with our planning commission and specifically with our planning or the site plan review committee chair and trying to figure out who should be the members of this team specific to this application. I mean, it will include planning commissioners, it will include representatives of these advisory groups that we have, civic association members, and other neighborhood representatives. And at that point, we establish a community engagement schedule. And we do encourage our applicants to conduct outreach to affected communities. We are seeing a very early and robust engagement process right now by VHC jointly with the county because this is such an important project that we have. Our next step is this online engagement, and you'll see in this review, in this slide, a couple of key points of when we're looking for specific feedback, and there are mechanisms for us to engage with our community. So first, there's an online engagement, and then we start into our SPRC meetings. Typically, there are about 2 to 3 meetings per project. And in doing so, they go through a variety of project or of topics in each of them. And they're hybrid meetings, and a Microsoft Teams link is provided to the community. I'm going to pause right now, sort of, if Daniel, if you want to speak any more about the SPRC meeting itself.
Sure. I think that, the thing that we like to say about the SPRC meetings, and I know that a lot of people here have participated in them, but I'm going to assume that I'm going to be talking generally, is that we on the Planning Commission try to have these projects, try our best to make sure that these projects are a forum for community review of development projects, to get input not just from other commissions, but from property owners, from staff, from citizen and community groups, from affected neighborhoods, from adjacent affected neighborhoods, and sometimes other interest groups as appropriate. As Jill mentioned, we usually do 2 to 3 meetings. Different chairs have different styles. I like to do a formal round robin so that everyone gets to sort of weigh in twice on each of our issues, ranging from transportation to building and design to architecture, open space, community benefits. There's a formal list, and the sort of goal is that over these 2 or 3 meetings, and sometimes there are more, but we try to we try not to go too far past that, is to make sure that the areas where there's consensus are identified, and to make sure that the areas where further discussion is identified. And sometimes further discussion means further discussion at the commissions. Sometimes it means these are the 3 issues that are fundamentally issues for the board to make decisions on. And I think that Jill, unless there's a point that you want me to get into with any more specifics, I think that I'm going to yield the floor back.
Great, thank you so much. Providing that comment about searching for and looking for consensus and bringing it forward, and reporting out. So what's happening then between the SPRC meetings and then some upcoming commission meetings? Again, staff will be preparing reports based on the public review, based on their and staff's review of the project, and prepping a draft county manager's report that will go to our planning commission. At the same time, our commissioners are dedicated, and the chair of that specific SPRC will present a report out to the planning commission. So there will be, at a minimum, a planning commission public hearing, and then it goes to our county board public hearing. Because of the sort of the robust nature of many of our projects, typically projects go to multiple other commissions, including transportation, housing commission, depending on what might be entailed. Many other commissions that are joining us this evening. And I'm going to stop here for just a moment. And Christian, if you wanted to add anything about the county board hearings.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate that. So just to really pick up from that standpoint, we are very open to commissions, based on your own work plans and interests, finding a way to engage yourself within this general framework of a process to deliberate as you deem necessary so that you can provide any guidance to the county board in terms of considering this final entitlement. Now, that said, we would love for you to be able to, and part of the reason for this early look is to see how you can integrate within this process and not extend it, because we do have some external desires to make sure that we get this project on a timeline where VHC can receive the appropriate certifications from the state in order to operate the number of beds that they have planned. So it's not just our process that impacts the date that this facility can be delivered. There's some other circumstances, and if we stray from our timeline, that impacts the overall viability of when this could occur. And hopefully we are all at the point where we agree that we want this to happen soonest. And so our role in all of that is to make sure we integrate our proceedings and deliberations according to this timeline. And here it is. Look at that. Wow. Did you develop that slide as I was talking? That was amazing.
Great, Christian. Thank you for bringing that up. And I was remiss to say with our site plan review process and our process is that We are committed to, from the time the application is accepted, so you're seeing that's going to be sort of the May, June timeframe. We're committed to trying to run this in a 120-day process, ensuring we work with the SPRC process, the broader community engagement process. VHC will be doing a lot of work themselves, as Christian mentioned, with the state and the COPN. And then ultimately, we are hoping to bring this forward November, December timeframe to the various commissions and ultimately to our county board. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Daniel.
Well, Christian, if I could interrupt and ask,
of course,
since that slide was up, I just want to highlight a couple of things for folks to understand. And the first one is, I worry that people think that everything is a done deal. It isn't. Although we need to initiate the site plan review by submitting the site plan application and the use permit applications. That will take us, as it says, until sometime in May, June. That involves some detail work, but that involves work that hopefully we can piggyback off of what we did with CSB, the county, and the Mental Health Alliance folks who have been working with us. We think we can take those concepts, but we're also going to seek their advice as we develop the plans for the facility. What you've seen is just conceptual. We just need to make sure we could fit on the land. It's really just that. It is some rough designs to anticipate how we think this might play out. And the other thing I wanted to point out on this slide is the COPN process. As Christian said, that's a process that we have to get approval from by the state. They're pretty regimented. In other words, for things like the request for additional behavioral health beds, the request for rehab beds, those have to go through the state's approval process. They are in batch cycles, meaning there are only certain times during the year that you can bring those forward. And so we have to hit those timelines and make sure that we can follow through from the state's perspective to show, as the title says, public need for the project. I think everybody knows that there's a great need for mental health, but the state still has their formula for determining need. And so we will be adhering to that as we make our case for why we think this is needed and doing it in the process that we're planning to do, why that's the best for the community and for healthcare in general for the state. So thanks for letting me interrupt, Kristen.
No, that was a welcome interruption. Thank you, Adrian. And I do appreciate your referencing the whole notion of a done deal. Not only is it not done from VHC's perspective, this is their plan that still has some hurdles. Also don't want to send the unintended signal that participation in this process is not welcome. What is done is that we have decided upon an outcome that I don't think there's really any disagreement about. We want to expand our services and offerings in Arlington County. What that looks like in terms of the facility, feedback and comment on the operations plan and how it interacts with the public space and any other desires that we see for the site is exactly what our processes are designed to uncover. And that feedback is quite necessary. Perhaps I'm a little influenced by the conversation we had before we started, where Jill was telling us about the great meal of ribs she recently had. All we've done at this point is we've decided that we want ribs, whether they are cooked low and slow or cooked hot, whether it's a dry rub or wet sauce, whether it's Carolina or Kansas City. All those things are yet to be determined, and that's kind of where we are in the process. All we know is that we want to eat those delicious ribs that Jill had last night and today. All right. let's get into some questions.
That was great. A great analogy.
Yeah, you like that, right? You like that. All right.
All right.
I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. Anyway, why don't we move to getting into questions and comments and conversation from you all who are attending tonight. So really, I'd like for you to put on your commissioner hat and let us know what insights are important for us here on the call, but really for the community at large to consider before or sometime during a public review process for this proposed new addition to the VHC Health Center offerings. I see some hands. So thank you all for using the hands functions. I see Daniel, and then hold on, I'm going to expand my view so that I can see them all. Daniel and then Steve.
Thanks, Christian, and thank you. Thank you for organizing this. I think this is really a great start, at least especially from the commission's perspective to this project. I don't know if this is going to be something that can be presented when the process starts, and if it can't be, it can't be. But to the extent that we are talking about any bonus density or any use, building envelope or use beyond what the current zoning anticipates, I do think it will be. I think that even draft plans for the county for the portion of the land that the county is going to retain are going to be of interest to at least the planning commission, because it's still going to be seen as one site, and the mitigation efforts that are going to be brought up and discussed. And I'm not just talking, I'm talking actual like site plan mitigation, not just the more nebulous community benefits. Have got to, they've either got to be consistent with whatever might be intended for that space, or if there is a more concrete idea, consistent with and sort of amplify what it is that wants to be done with that space. Maybe it won't be known, but that's what I wanted to offer.
Daniel, thank you. That's profound insight. I'll probably take the first stab at this. I think one of the unfortunate circumstances of this concept with our typical approach to planning is that the timelines do not align really at all, in terms of VHC's desire to, hopefully deliver these, I believe, in 2025. And what the county would need to go through in order to have a determinative use of what to do with the remaining parcel of the site. But what I do take from your comments, Daniel, that I think we should certainly think about are any decisions made here. We need to also look broadly at what that implicates in terms of either expanding or reducing the possibility for decisions on the county parcel. So I think we can definitely make sure that we're intentional about that. Steve, you're next.
Thanks, Christian.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, I'm Steve Young, serving on the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission. I'm also a longtime resident of Glen Carlin, the neighbors. I must speak for myself here because JFAC has not had an opportunity to meet and discuss this. I believe that most of us think that the proposed facility is a wonderful idea, and I've been hearing that a lot this evening, that would help to address an enormous need. Almost everyone knows someone who would be helped by a facility like this. I know I do. Also, the general location seems broadly appropriate. The current zoning is compatible. The setting next to the parkland can be beneficial for the health of patients and staff. That's been mentioned. So it's a great concept. However, and this is a big however, the process to this point has been regrettable. The January 24th announcement stated, "This joint project comes with support from key Arlington community members and stakeholder groups." How odd that neither JFAC nor the neighboring communities received any notice until literally several hours before the announcement. It's not as though they weren't known to be keenly interested stakeholders. JFAC was extensively involved in earlier discussions about this site. County board member Matt DeFerranti was on JFAC during the initial round of discussions, and I'm sure he will recall that JFAC was led to believe that it would be involved in subsequent planning for the use of the site. The Glen Carlin and Forest Glen communities had extensive interactions with the county over the 2016 to 2022 period and made their keen interests and ideas well known. Also, I believe both VHC and the county have abundantly learned that it is important to engage with stakeholders, with communities, and not take them by surprise like we were. But perhaps inexplicably, the county and VHC just forgot about JFAC and the communities. The forgetfulness excuse seems highly improbable, or perhaps they could not be involved due to real estate confidentiality concerns. That excuse is belied by the facts that multiple outside parties were in on the proposal before the letter of intent was signed, and there was no sound business need for confidentiality in this situation that I could identify. I'm left to speculate that there was so much excitement about the proposal that it triggered the jettisoning of good engagement practices. The appearance has been created that assumptions were made that neighbor communities would be a bunch of NIMBYs and that involving JFAC would be annoying. This was all incredibly disrespectful and unnecessary. To further add insult to injury, it seems that fairly advanced discussions are underway with the Animal Welfare League of Arlington to site operations in the north portion of the tract that the county intends to retain. Once again, JFAC and the communities have been excluded. This overall pattern of behavior needlessly breeds suspicion and distrust. It appears that no one has been at the table to advocate for the communities. No one was at the table to advocate for the park and natural resources. No one was at the table to advocate for creative co-location opportunities from the perspective JFAC is tasked with. Because the LOI has been signed and presumably site planning is well advanced, opportunities for creative and collaborative discussions and wins for all parties have been diminished. It seems worthy of note that the LOI, negotiated without community and JFAC input, says of stakeholder engagement in section 12 only that stakeholders will be informed. That is not engagement. Now, all that said, breathe a sigh of relief. The most important thing is what happens going forward. I haven't heard a single voice saying, let's stop this thing. And maybe there was some thought that that was going to be a deal. The sentiment is, let's do it right. There are a number of legitimate questions and concerns. For time, I will not go into all of them here except to use as examples. What's up with the 500-car garage? How can this enhance the park and better help meet the public spaces master plan of a substantial increase in park acreage? Why does the current proposal include only minimal park expansion? The Carlin Springs site poses special challenges as well as opportunities. The fact that it's adjacent to Long Branch Nature Center and Glen Carlin Park stands out. And the Nature Center has been terribly neglected over the years. The site decisions and planning should be used not merely to minimize harm, but to enhance the park and its natural resources. This will require creative thinking with your willing stakeholders. The proposed facilities inevitably will have some detrimental impacts on the communities. VHC and the county must work with the communities to provide offsetting benefits. VHC and the county should immediately initiate robust and sincere collaborative discussions about this site in the spirit of let's work together to do this in the best way possible and expeditiously. In particular, the communities, JFAC, and parks should be substantively involved in site plan development rather than left in a reactive mode to respond to a fully cooked plan. I guarantee that it will be a better plan and the review process will have a better chance of moving smoothly and quickly if this takes place. I do hope tonight will be the beginning of genuine engagement. Thanks for allowing me to speak. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. I think certainly I'd be happy to have a more extensive conversation than our format will allow at some other point to maybe correct some of your misunderstandings about who was involved pre-letter of intent signing. Did not involve community groups at the exclusion of others. Those are necessarily closely held conversations because before you can get to that point, you have to determine what are the broad general interests and see how those align, and that's can't be done publicly. So anyway, we'll have a larger conversation, but I take to heart your desire that I hear very clearly that you approve and think that this is a good concept moving forward. I think all of the engagement that we've had to date led us to confidence that that would be your ultimate conclusion, but we'll certainly make sure that the opportunities to engage from this point forward are as robust as you desire, or at least that will be our aim.
Thank you.
All right. Linda, I see your hand.
Thank you, Christian. I just have a question. When it comes to older adults and the facility that you have on the main campus versus this new facility you're planning, could you just take me through a scenario or two where an older adult would be taken care of at main campus versus this this new facility?
Yeah. So it's not uncommon at all for someone to be depressed and have suicidal ideations while at the same time battling with a chronic illness, say heart failure. Okay. And so by keeping them on the main campus, we're going to be able to provide that medical care. So access to IVs and oxygen that you just won't have in a purely behavioral health facility. And so, and in that situation, you know, obviously you need the need for bigger room. That's a private room so that you can have the walker, wheelchair assist, and all those things are compatible with the medical needs of the patient. Keep in mind, in the hospital, you have the hospitalist and all the specialists that can come to the patient, no matter what area of the hospital they're in. It's logistically a little more difficult when they're four miles away.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Any other areas that need to be surfaced as part of this? Very good stuff thus far. Bryant.
Hello. I wanted to see, and of course, this is probably something that will happen once we get the certification from the state, but looking into behavioral health for neurodivergent conditions such as autism and Down syndrome that require additional support outside of a general practice. Is that being considered to be incorporated here in this facility or at the main hospital?
It would depend on the needs of the patient. So inpatient care, we have an area that we not yet decided. So, you know, depending on the severity of the autism and, you know, is it a long-term care situation versus a acute inpatient situation. So acute inpatient, yes, this facility would be suitable for that. And as far as the outpatient services, I need to ponder on that one. I haven't thought about that, to be honest with you. So I need to consult my experts before I commit to anything. But I believe that would be within their realm of specialty, but I will confirm that. And then, of course, if the patient needs long-term care, then that's a completely different setting.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And I'll leave it at this, but you know, I'm extremely excited to move forward in this process and tearing up a little bit to see it, you know, in the near future.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And Cindy, you're next.
Hi, I'm just perhaps stating the obvious, but on behalf of C2E2, of course, we will look forward to, and we know that the other parcels can't be discussed, but the things that will be done, for all electric, green, solar, sourcing, and I'm sure that was part of the process. But of course, the more that you can post on that early, the more we'll have, the more we can work with you to keep the process moving. So we're excited about that as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Daniel, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do.
Comment?
Yeah, sorry. One other thing that I think is going to be interesting to hear a little bit about. I don't know if anyone. I can't remember if anyone from DES is on here, but it would be nice to get a sense of some of the longer term planning for Carlin Springs itself. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more vehicular traffic, and it's not going to work if it's all if it's all personally occupied vehicle and or Uber, and I don't think that that actually is even consistent with the profile of the kind of patients who are going to be receiving care. So, comprehensive longer term visioning for Carlin Springs is going to be something that is that I'm fairly confident it's going to get asked about. I think hopefully that's all I have. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Don't censor yourself. No, that's going to be an important consideration, and marrying transportation planning, our Vision Zero priorities, and everything else that's happening clustered close to the site will certainly be of interest, and will definitely need to be integrated into what we do as far as review. So thank you. All right.
Christian, I'm wondering if you might get thoughts about the second question here.
Yeah, thank you, Bryna. So, as we mentioned, there is a desire to make sure this proceeds expeditiously, but certainly, as Steve brought up, we have a desire to make sure that we get the kind of robust engagement that people deserve, and that surfaces the opportunity to really think about all of these interconnected and interrelated issues in a thoughtful and comprehensive way. So, the second question, do you think that there are any opportunities to streamline or coordinate processes among commissions in order to sort of make sure we stay on track for this project? Are there any synergies in terms of joint meetings or joint briefings with access to staff experts or VHC experts that would facilitate your doing the work that would allow us to kind of meet the reasonably aggressive timeline that we've outlined?
This is the harder question.
Much. Well, it is not one that we have to definitively answer tonight. You certainly will have time to chew on it a bit if you like to think about it and take it back to your commissions to sort of stew over. But we would like to at least plant the seed that would be something that would be very welcome. The more that we can provide those opportunities to cover the same content for multiple stakeholder groups, as opposed to waiting multiple months to try to fit that in, that would certainly help. And also, I think, as we're kind of experiencing tonight with this innovative approach that we're doing, there's some benefit when you get to hear some of the concerns from the perspectives of people who are on commissions, not your own. So this is not just about facilitating this project. It's a pretty good way of engagement when we can bring more perspectives, people who are wearing different hats to conversations. Oh, Cindy, I see your hand.
I was just going to say that I find the SP, just piggybacking on what you're saying, Christian, I raised my hand before that, but we're in sync, is that the SPRC process is a great place where there are people from a lot of commissions sharing views. And I think I've heard, on the SPRCs I've been involved with, there are people from a lot of these different commissions, but maybe if there are some that aren't typically included in an SPRC, maybe we expand that so that we have fewer meetings. I know Daniel Weir has been involved in a lot of SPRCs so maybe Daniel, if you have any thoughts. But I think the SPRC does bring a lot of those perspectives together in individual meetings.
Indeed. Thank you, Cindy. Excellent.
Christian, if I may, it's Steve again. I
Hey,
actually
Steve.
would kind of second what Cindy just said, and I will freely admit that I could learn a lot about the SPRC process, and I heard some helpful things tonight for sure. But that using essentially trying to pull together the right cast of characters earlier rather than later for the review, I think would be an excellent way to get the commissions involved. And in my own view, I really would like to see forestry and natural resources very much in the mix here, as well as parks and recreation, right? And I think I think there's a thrilling opportunity to really take advantage of the nature elements of this site, to benefit the patients and the staff of the facilities. So, but that might be a little bit out of the norm to have them, to really go out of the way to get them involved early on in the process.
Hey, we're all about innovation. So I see Kate from Forestry and Natural Resources. So Kate, you get the floor next.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've just recently started getting involved in a couple of the SPRC projects, and it is eye-opening and very interesting. And I was happy to hear a couple of times during the presentation the emphasis on the importance of nature and, preserving our natural resources and expanding those resources, because study after study has shown how important they are to health, to healing, for mental health. And I think I know forestry and natural resources would very much like to be involved early and often. I do think that being paired with Parks and Rec just kind of naturally goes along together, especially considering how these, the way this project is situated. But there's, other times like with C2E2 and other things. So I think we would be open to having some meetings, that involve more than just, I know how you go from commission to commission and you give those meetings. If it would help streamline the process, there may be a way that we could do that, so that we were getting kind of that synergy between a couple of the commissions. This sounds like it would be a good project to try that kind of thing. I can see where if you get, too large of a group, it might just get unwieldy, but, you can always try it. And if it doesn't work, then you can, take that and work from there. But I think we might be interested in something like that. But this, all in all, I just want to say this sounds like a fantastic project and a great improvement for Arlington. It's very exciting. Thank you.
Well, Kate, thank you for that. And, we certainly have someone from C2E2 on the call. I can't remember if someone from Park and Rec was able to join. So maybe you folks can exchange contact information. And I already hear potentially a concept for a C2E2 FNR Park and Rec joint meeting. That sounds pretty exciting. All right, Daniel, go ahead.
Daniel, you're muted.
It's always someone. So thank you. I don't believe that I'll be chairing this project. So, but I want to say to the other commission representatives who've spoken up, that the chair of the overall site plan review committee process, like the overall subcommittee, Tenley Peterson, and the commission chair, Devanshi Patel, are both extremely thoughtful and creative. And I'm sure that they'll have very interesting and very intentional ways of reflecting on some of this feedback for hopes to participate that people have shared. I'm just sharing my optimism with other people who have spoken up tonight.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. All right, Bryna, I assume this will be the case, but the slides as well as the recording will be posted somewhere for people to share and view later?
We do. We have a VHC site, so we'll post it there. We'll get it out to all the commissioners in the same way that it came, the invitation came. So look for that, and thank you, everyone. Christian, back to you.
Thank you. Fantastic project.
Well, thank you all. This is really a terrific meeting. I think, we don't know what to expect since the first time we've done something like this, but I think it really accomplished the goals of familiarizing you all with the project a little bit more, familiarizing commissioners with the world of other commissioners who may have an interest and stake in this, as well as surfacing some key considerations for us to have moving forward. So I thank you for your engagement tonight. I certainly thank you for all that you give to the county and the county board in terms of your service on commissions. We do very much appreciate it. And as we mentioned earlier, we do expect that, by the May timeframe, we'll really start to see some of these concepts fleshed out a little bit more, with some engagement happening before that. I am also sure before we then get into the SPRC process. So unless there's anything else for the good of the order, I'm going to give you all back a little bit of time this evening and adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you
Thank-
very much.
Thank you all.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.